Before this video starts, I know that most of the people watching this won't watch the entire thing, and that's fine with me, but I just want to say that this will be my last video, and I thought it'd be cool if everyone that watches my channel could comment their favorite video from my channel, and I'll reply with a fun fact about that specific video. I'll talk more about me leaving YouTube at the end of this video. Please enjoy. So, you all wanted more, eh? You couldn't stand the thought of me leaving YouTube, so you drowned me with hashtag release the Sealard cut. Well, you win then. I'll make it. Now before I start, what exactly is the Sealard cut? Well, it's more of an idea than an actual thing. It's the idea that I shouldn't have rushed my Adventure Time video, especially since it was going to be the last video I ever uploaded. Also, literally 2 days after I uploaded the video, HBO Max posted the trailer for Distant Lands Together Again, which is about Finn and Jake. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for, I present to you the Sealard cut. Actually, I guess it's less of a cut and more of an add-on or a DLC. Whatever. Here it is. The world is terrifying. It's full of terrifying people and terrifying places. But there are little slivers of good in this world. These slivers can be different things for different people. Maybe that sliver is a book, or football, or Minecraft. Everybody has different slivers, and one of mine is, in my opinion, the greatest creation in all of television history. Adventure Time. I recently finished watching every single episode of this holy show, including all 3 miniseries and the 3 episodes of Distant Lands that are out, and I felt that I needed to express my love for it, so I decided to make this video. Adventure Time is the only reason Cartoon Network has any quality whatsoever, besides maybe regular show. It was created by Pendleton Ward and paid for by Cartoon Network. It's about a boy named Finn Mertens and his brother Jake the dog. They live in this iconic treehouse and love to go on adventures and explore the land of Ooo in this post-apocalyptic version of Earth. Around 1,000 years after a vague nuclear war, known as the Great Mushroom War, the land of Ooo is filled with wacky candy people, lumpy people, slimy people, fiery people, wizard people, party bear people, ghost people, demon people, robot people, and many more. Despite the extreme doses of lore that this world contains, this show is absolutely nothing without its amazing range of characters.
What am I to you? Am I a joke, your knight or your brother? What am I to you? Do you look down on me cause I'm younger?
Adventure Time is a show about characters. That's a fact. When writing it, they really wanted to take advantage of the 10 seasons that they have to fill, and they spent a lot of time developing characters. I would say that this show does a better job at developing characters than the entire MCU, and any other form of media there is. Let's go through some of them. Finn the Human Mertens starts the show as a simple-minded, wide-eyed 12-year-old who pretty much only knows good and evil. He's energetic and determined, but doesn't really understand how the world works. But throughout the show, instead of keeping him the same age like other shows do for their characters, which isn't necessarily a bad thing for characters like Bart, but it wouldn't fit well with Adventure Time, the writers allow Finn to grow and mature in real time. They also keep the same voice actor and allow his voice to go through puberty and get deeper throughout the show.
Hey, Princess Bubblegum, when we bring the dead back to life, will they be filled with worms?
It's a signal Jake came up with so we could find each other if we got separated.
Finn also starts to have feelings for girls, like Princess Bubblegum, Flame Princess, and Huntress Wizard, which is the plot of many episodes.
Now you like me?
Finn, what are you talking about?
What am I talking about? I was in love with you, okay? And you didn't love me back.
Finn also gains new emotional problems while his body changes as he beats up bad guys in dungeons and arenas, including, like mentioned before, crushes and breakups,
I need some time alone.
daddy issues,
What the heck, Dad? Is everything you say a lie?
No, of course not.
Well, is there any way I can tell the difference?
I hope not.
and existentialism.
What is the meaning of soup?
What? I don't know. What's with all the weird questions?
What is the meaning of spoon? I just been feeling kinda gray is all. Like my inside voice has been kinda quiet lately.
Which is bound to happen considering he's the only known human left on Ooo. This is because after the Great Mushroom War, vampires came out of hiding and almost hunted the remaining humans to extinction. Luckily, Marceline killed all the vampires and was turned into one along the way. So the humans sailed off to another island and rebuilt human civilization on Founders Island. Finn was actually born there but ended up alone on a raft drifting towards Ooo. By the end of the show, Finn is a confident 17-year-old that's trying to find other ways to resolve problems besides violence. He's also trying to prove himself as a young adult and find his place in the world. Jake the dog is a middle-aged half-dog, half-alien that has the power to stretch into almost anything, which came from his biological alien father, Warren Ampersand. He was raised by his parents, Joshua and Margaret, a crime investigating couple along with Finn and his biological brother Jermaine. Jake likes to eat, cook, and play the viola. He's also in a relationship with a rainbow unicorn named Lady Rainicorn, and eventually becomes an extremely nervous father for a whole episode or two. You can see him slowly realize that he can't keep adventuring with Finn forever, because he's getting old and more tired, but he also loves his brother and would do anything for him, and Finn would do the same for Jake. But the two of them, despite having all of these problems, still beatbox in the morning, play video games, and make fart jokes like the two brothers they are.
Got him!
Jake!
I thought it would be funny!
Princess Bonnibel Bubblegum is a hard-working scientist that has trust issues and doesn't really respect her subjects' personal space. She likes to have fun every now and then, but usually can't because she has an entire kingdom to babysit and develop, and non-stop science experiments to do. She also has a secret relationship with Marceline the Vampire Queen that's subtly hinted at, but is usually creating problems for Finn and Jake to solve. Princess Bubblegum's origins have always been vague, but she and her brother Nettie supposedly came from a huge living piece of gum, which probably has something to do with her being a candy elemental. Unlike most female characters in today's media, Bonnibel Bubblegum actually has flaws and room for development that eventually gets filled by the end of the show. Marceline the Vampire Queen Abadir is a punk vampire that plays the bass and sings a lot. Just like Finn, Marceline also has daddy issues, but her dad is the Lord of the Nightosphere and is continuously trying to get Marceline to become evil like him, but usually ends up just embarrassing her like the try-hard dad that loves her daughter that he is on the inside. Marceline will destroy anyone that takes her base or threatens her in any way, and has a very sad past with the Ice King. Marceline was actually born half demon, half human before she decided to hunt vampires, which then led to her getting bit by the Vampire King. This resulted in Marceline becoming the last vampire. I'm not entirely sure why she calls herself the Vampire Queen, but whatever, it's fine. I'd also like to mention how perfectly the writers handled Princess Bubblegum and Marceline's lesbian relationship. Unlike other shows, Adventure Time doesn't shove their gay characters down your throat. Okay, I could have phrased that better. Other shows might spend entire episodes or plots on showing off their sexual diversity in characters, and treat it like some abnormal crazy thing, but that's the last thing they should do when trying to make kids be comfortable with their identity and sexuality. Adventure Time treats the lesbian relationship like any other relationship. They don't make the other characters react weirdly to it, they give them the same relationship problems between them, and the same social interactions. By doing all that, they're portraying that relationships are all just as awkward, difficult, confusing, but ultimately sweet, comfortable, and wholesome, despite what's between your legs. Simon the Ice King Petrikov is one of the best ways to describe the words character development. At the beginning of the show, he's just some lonely idiot that kidnaps princesses for company, and gets beat up by Finn and Jake. Somewhere along the show, the writers decided to give Ice King an extremely important and depressing past. Before the Great Mushroom War, Ice King was just a normal guy named Simon Petrikov. He finds a magical crown that gave him ice powers and immortality while slowly corrupting his mind into madness. The crown was actually created by an ice elemental named Urgence Evergreen, who created it to stop an evil-looking Catalyst Comet, which is a comet that hits the Earth every 1,000 years and brings an agent of change each time from hitting Earth. It's later revealed that as a result of the detonation of one of the mushroom bombs, radiation seeps into an urban city and creates zombie things called oozers. Simon and a young Marceline try to find resources in canned soup. He has to use his crown to fight off the zombies, but tries not to because every time he puts it on, he gets closer to becoming the Ice King. BMO is a living video game console that has a quirky and innocent personality. He barely understands the world, but still loves all beautiful things in it. He lives with Finn and Jake in their treehouse and, like most characters, ends up having an interesting and deep past. But it's nothing that important. Fine, I'll say it anyway. BMO was created by this guy called Mo, who founded a high-tech robot company called MoCo. BMO, which stands for Be More, was created to give love, which is really sweet when you think about it. There are so many more characters that have unique personalities in Adventure Time, but unless I want this video to be 5 years long, I'll have to skip the rest. But just know that what I've said is just a fraction of what there is to say about the characters, and a fraction of the characters that there actually are. There are two story formations that a show can have: serialized or episodic. Serialized means that it shows one long story take place over all the episodes, like Stranger Things or... While episodic means the show's episodes begin and end the exact same way so that the next episode can have a different plot that doesn't affect any future episodes, like The Simpsons or Family Guy. Some shows are both, like Rick and Morty or Gravity Falls. Adventure Time is also both serialized and episodic. Most episodes have their own plot, but the characters remember previous episodes, and sometimes the plot of one episode will affect future episodes. The main storylines are kind of split into different stories. There are the Lich ones, the Orgalorg ones, the Elemental ones, the Simon/Betty ones, the Crown ones, the King of Ooh ones, the Princess Bubblegum/Gumbald ones, the Great Gum War ones, the Fern ones, the Vampire ones, the Human ones, the Magic Man/Normal Man/King Man ones, and the Gulb ones. There might have been more, but those are the ones that I remember. Keep in mind that there are 274 episodes of Adventure Time, so it's hard to remember all of them. Another great part of Adventure Time's writing is how the writers somehow managed to make the show grow up in a certain way along with its audience. Basically, if you were watching Adventure Time when it was airing at the right age, the big things that happened in the show would happen at the time that you would be able to be affected by it. Here's a video that helps sum it up. The link to the full video is in the description.
But there's one last thing that Adventure Time has done that I believe truly separates it from anything else that's really been done before. And that thing is how Adventure Time grew up alongside me as a person. Over the decade that it's run, it has matured and transformed from a silly, adventure-having, lol-so-random 12-year-old to a surprisingly serious, philosophically interested, but still ultimately gold-hearted 22-year-old. Each big punch of the show, along with several other mid-season punches, comes at a time at which I was really able to be impacted by it. At the end of Season 1, freshly turned 14-year-old West was able to grasp the lesson behind Billy being worn out and tired of violence. By halfway through Season 3, I was old enough to understand the transaction between Finn and Susan when she has him feel her neck for the lack of gills. By Season 5, I was just old enough to be legitimately thought-struck by Lemon John's decision to dissolve into lemon heads instead of to attack the Candy Kingdom. And so on did this progress, creating a synchronized timeline of when these episodes were releasing and how old one needed to be to feel their full effect.
Also, if you're interested in learning the entire Adventure timeline, see what I did there? There's another link in the video for that.
I can't keep pushing this down any deeper. Why do I keep trying if I can't keep her?
I'm entirely aware that Adventure Time isn't the only kids show to cover mature subjects, but the way it does it is very unique and is definitely worth mentioning. It's hard to explain, but Adventure Time kind of disguises its mature subjects and lessons with bright, colorful, vivid worlds and characters. Now, some episodes, mostly the earlier ones, are actually as simple as fun as they look, but the episodes slowly get darker throughout the show. I mean, if you see this frame, would you guess that this cute little cookie guy is about to try and kill himself because he doesn't see a way of fulfilling his dream of becoming a princess? Probably not. I mean, he doesn't actually kill himself, but that was his intention. In another episode, Jake has a dream about suffocating in space, and proceeds to literally try to fulfill this prophecy by attempting to shoot himself into space to die. The way that Finn tries to stop Jake from doing this is heartbreaking. I mean, his lifelong brother and best friend is trying to kill himself and leave him alone because of a single dream that he had. Obviously, they both end up okay, but it's still really dark when you think about it. Not enough examples? Okay. There's another episode where Finn and Flame Princess are together, and Finn is planning on trying to kiss her on their date. But Princess Bubblegum explains that if Flame Princess feels extreme romantic emotions, she'll be too physically unstable to control her powers and will bounce from the surface of the Earth to the core, back and forth until the planet burns itself from the inside. Now, this is basically just a more simplified way of saying that sometimes being with someone is a bad idea. Not because of them or you, but because maybe it's dangerous to yourselves or others. Obviously not as dangerous as the planet burning from the inside, but Adventure Time teaches this mature subject in a more child-friendly way. Listen, I could go on forever through all of this philosophical and really dark moments in Adventure Time, but that would take too long. So if you're genuinely interested in this idea, why the hell are you still watching this video? Go check out the show, goddammit.
Let's go in the garden. You'll find something waiting right there where you left it, lying upside down. finally find it, you'll see how it's faded. The underside is lighter when you turn it around.
Holy shit, I cannot stress how breathtaking Adventure Time's music is. Now, it's completely my opinion that it's so good and stuff, but whatever, it's impossible to deny that the music is so meaningful and expressive. Most of them are really, really emotional, and almost all of them are just straight up bops. I don't know why Good Little Boy is Adventure Time's top song on Spotify. I honestly find it kind of weird and awkward, especially how Fiona, Ice King's fanfiction version of Finn with the opposite sex, is like 13 or 14, and Marshall Lee is over 1,000 years old and is technically into boys. But to be fair, Ice King definitely wouldn't know how old Marceline, nor that she's into girls. Except for the fact that the episode of Fiona and Cake that I'm talking about was told by Marceline, so anyway, yeah. That's why I don't like that song. But my favorite songs are Monster, Everything Stays, Eternity with You, Time Adventure, Remember You, All Gummed Up, All Warmed Up, My Best Friends in the World, I'm Just Your Problem, Fries, On a Boat, and Jukebug. I mean, what other show has songs that are this deep and beautiful? Go on, I'll wait. I'll say that the most emotional song is probably Time Adventure. I get shivers sent down my spine every time I hear it. Now, I'm not gonna yak on about the humor in this show for too long, because honestly, it's not the funniest show ever, but I personally find it funny enough to want to make an entire part about it. I have a pretty wide humor range. I love dark humor, random humor, loud humor, sarcastic humor, and sometimes even slapstick humor. And I think Adventure Time does a great job of covering all grounds in comedy terms.
Top a flip off the treehouse! Woohoo! Random cowboy! Woo!
And this might be the only show in existence that can make fart jokes funny.
True ninja passes no wind. He only passes.
Sometimes they're suggestive jokes.
Right now you're at tier 1, which is hugging. But pretty soon, you'll be at tier 2, which is smooching.
What about tier 15?
You stay away from that. Do not do tier 15!
Sometimes it's a joke so random I burst out laughing.
You're acting highly sus.
Sometimes it's a dark joke that makes you spit out your drink.
Hey, Finn, are you awake yet?
I'm trying.
I had a dream about Meat Man.
Oh, yeah?
I think I'm gonna stop eating Meat Man.
Sometimes it's as simple as a fart.
Sup, Jake?
But Adventure Time makes it so perfect that it's hilarious. I'm aware that senses of humor is one of the most unique things about a person, so not everyone will love Adventure Time for the funny parts. But I love it, so shut up.
Draw dresser, you are gonna be my improv coach!
Yes, and?
As someone that loves visual art and does a lot of art myself, I might appreciate this more than other people. But the colors and backgrounds of Adventure Time are undeniably astonishing. This shot right here. Notice how you can see the particles in the beam of sunlight as it streams through the windows. Let's see what would happen if I mess the colors up a bit. Notice how the mood is completely different now? It's because I changed the colors around. You get it. What about this shot? Or this one? Or this one? These are just random episodes from random seasons. They're nothing special. Here are a few beautiful shots from random episodes. There are 3 miniseries in the entire Adventure Time show, not including Distant Lands. The first one is called Stakes, and is about Marceline and the history of vampires. The second one is called Islands, which is about Finn, Jake, Susan Strong, and BMO going on a boat trip to learn more about humans and Finn's mom. And the last one is called Elements. It's about Finn, Jake, Ice King, and Betty trying to undo Patient St. Pim's mistake of turning all the elementals into their strongest forms. I tried to decide which miniseries was my favorite, but I honestly couldn't. They're all so good and I enjoy them all equally. Stakes had the best characters, Islands had the best environments, and Elements had the best story. To be completely honest, Stakes' story was a bit hard to believe. Marceline had never shown any signs of not wanting to be a vampire before, and it felt like her reasons for blaming herself at the end were also kind of stupid. This made Stakes feel kind of out of nowhere, and like it wasn't planned ahead at the time. There was no foreshadowing or events leading up to Stakes, while Islands and Elements were both very well developed and were obviously being planned out for a while before they aired.
Come along with me, and the butterflies and bees.
While watching the show, the sad thought that I would eventually run out of Adventure Time to watch was lurking in the back of my mind. When I finally got to the last episode, I tried to enjoy and love every single second of it, but I couldn't. The final episode was the worst episode in the entire show, is what a dead guy said. He's dead because I killed him. The final episode, Come Along With Me, is the best fucking episode of Adventure Time. It's like a huge ass buffet, showing off all the characters that you've known and loved for all the years that you've been watching Adventure Time. I was genuinely terrified for the characters in the last episode because I'd grown so attached to them. I quite literally care about them. Almost every important side character makes an appearance and or affects the story somehow, which is a lot, by the way. Now, I don't consider myself an emotional person. I didn't cry during Titanic or Up or even the end of Endgame. But when BMO went up to Jake and started singing to him his beautiful song to help Jake from feeling so incredibly small in this horrifying situation, not gonna say what it is just in case you want to watch it, and then it slowly turned into almost all of the best and most meaningful characters collectively harmonizing this heartwarming song, I couldn't help but begin to cry. Then at the end, when the musical started to sing the main outro song that plays every time at the end of every single episode, while showing all the characters I know and love continue to live their lives and go on more crazy adventures, I couldn't help myself but burst into tears. Adventure Time truly did the impossible, created something fictional that I genuinely cared about and never wanted to end.
We can wander through the forest and do so as we please, living so merrily.
Oh, you thought that was the end of the video? No, of course not. I still have a lot more to say about Adventure Time. And there's still 2 other episodes to talk about. On June 25th, 2020, the first episode of a new show that's based in the Adventure Time universe aired on HBO Max, I think. And I had no idea about any of this until around late 2020. I did some research and found out that since I live in Canada, I can't access HBO Max and couldn't watch Distant Lands Episode 1 BMO. But on April 9th, 2021, I found an illegal website and watched it on there. I also found a legal way to watch Episode 2 of this fairly new show, which aired on November 19th, 2020. When I began watching the hour-long episode of this new show, I had no idea what to expect. I was hoping they didn't fuck up this masterpiece of a show to make some more money. And they didn't. It was actually pretty good. It's about a space adventure that BMO goes on. That's it. There are characters introduced and stuff, but the premise is that it's about BMO being cute and heroic. The story was a bit weak and I didn't find myself caring about any characters besides BMO, but it was still an enjoyable experience and I recommend watching it even if you aren't a huge Adventure Time fan. The link to illegally watch it is in the description. And I also couldn't think of any lessons or morals from the show, which is abnormal for Adventure Time. But the backgrounds were beautiful and detailed and they added a lot of atmosphere to the locations. My final thought of BMO is that it's an enjoyable experiment and I recommend watching it even if you aren't a huge fan of Adventure Time.
I don't wanna sound all sweet and sappy, but all I wanna do is make you happy, you know. Yeah, all I really wanna do is spend all of eternity with you.
I'm writing this right after watching Obsidian, so it's pretty fresh in my mind. Despite the fact that the episode is only 46 minutes long, and the story being kind of bland, I was impressed with the different style that they took with Obsidian compared with BMO. The colors and lighting was reliably astonishing, and it was awesome seeing the relationship between Princess Bubblegum and Marceline. I always wanted to know more about their relationship before the show, and after they kiss in the final episode of the primary show. I was expecting a lot of unbelievably amazing music from Marceline, and they definitely delivered some great hits. They also changed the character design of Princess Bubblegum and Marceline a tiny bit. Nothing any normal person would notice, but as a hardcore Adventure Time fan, it got on my nerves quite a bit. But enough with the flaws. I want to talk about what made this good. Like I said before, they took a different path from the BMO episode by making it less about story and more about what the fans wanted, to see what Marcy and PB were like together. I mean, they're pretty much complete opposites, but I guess opposites attract. Us fans were also dying to know what everything was like after the final episode, and it also gave us a lot of information on that. I'm not going to give too much away, because I don't want to spoil it for anyone that wants to watch Obsidian, but there's a lot more info given on Marcy's past and how she grew up after the Great Mushroom War. This episode was definitely a form of fan service, and I hope everyone appreciates this gem of a 46-minute episode. Now, do I think that Distant Lands so far is better than the actual Adventure Time show? Well, actually, no. No, not even close. But it is still very impressive, and I'm excited for the next 2 episodes to come out. Warning. This episode came out fairly recently, so if you're planning on watching it, I'd suggest skipping to this time to avoid spoilers, which you can also do with the timestamps in the description. Or you can watch Together Again for free by clicking on another link in the description, and then you can come back to finish watching this. Okay, this is your last chance to avoid spoilers, and there are a lot of spoilers in here. You ready? Okay, here we go. I warned you. When I first watched Together Again, I couldn't decide whether I liked it or not. At first I thought that it felt rushed and wasn't as good as Obsidian, but after a while I thought to myself, what the fuck is wrong with me? This episode of Distant Lands is an absolute masterpiece. Together Again took an extremely different path from the other episodes by basing the entire show after Finn and Jake die. It starts with a genuinely terrifying hallucination that begins with Finn and Jake going on a stereotypical adventure to save Turtle Princess and Lumpy Space Princess from the Ice King. After that, things start to get really twisted. They find a gravestone that says RIP with a hole in front of it. Jake begins crawling towards the hole while talking about how this is okay, and how he's supposed to do this. Finn gets really emotional and starts begging Jake not to die, saying that they're supposed to share this 50 flavored ice cream together. By the way, the 50 flavored ice cream represents the 50th Dead World, and how Finn and Jake were supposed to die together and get reincarnated as a pair. But then Jake melts into water and seeps into the hole, along with the 50 flavored ice cream. Finn looks up and sees that the gravestone now says RIP Jake. He starts to have an emotional breakdown, which shows how much Jake's death affected him and the rest of his life. It then reveals that Finn is actually old and was hallucinating because of weird brain spider things. So he helps the other old people in the dungeon and finds out that he has died. The rest of the episode is Finn trying to get to Jake so they can get reincarnated together, but they run into the new death and have to stop him along the way. I'm going to start by talking about the parts of the episode I didn't like, or thought could be better, and then go through most of the things that made this episode the best out of all 3 Distant Lands so far. Now, it's obvious that they drew a lot of inspiration from the episode Death in Bloom, where Finn and Jake have to travel to the underworld to retrieve the soul of Princess Bubblegum's plant before she gets back. But in one of the scenes in that episode, the dead people of that dead world were trying to eat Finn and Jake's flesh because they have none. They were skeletons. But in Together Again, we see Finn and Mr. Fox both dead in the same dead world as the one in Death in Bloom, but neither of them are skeletons. In fact, we learn that they can make themselves look like any past versions of themselves, including previous reincarnations. So why would the skeletons in Death in Bloom be so desperate for flesh if they can make themselves look like humans whenever they want? I think the writers were hoping nobody caught on to that, but I'm too much of a mega fan to miss it. Probably my biggest issue with this episode is how Jake supposedly regains his memory. I don't know if he remembers everything by chewing the gum or by beating up the Undertakers to save Finn, but he somehow remembers being Jake all of a sudden. They definitely should have spent more time on Jake remembering everything. Maybe a short montage of Finn and Jake's most meaningful moments, or him acknowledging that he remembers Finn and himself. Or anything, really. It took me a while to realize that Jake remembered Finn because he didn't say it out loud. Hey, this is Elis from the future. While editing this, I realized that Jake actually did state that he remembers Finn.
You're Finn. I know you.
But he said it like it was nothing, like saying you remember some distant relative that you met when you were 10. He probably remembered his entire life as Jake, but it just didn't mean that much to him compared to whatever he's doing in the 50th Dead World. But after watching Finn get beat up, he realizes how much he used to care about him and decided to intervene. I also didn't really like the villain. His voice actor feels like he was wrongly cast, and his backstory didn't explain why he's such a dick, considering that he was raised by life and death, who are supposedly very peaceful and reasonable. We also never learn what his real name is. They just call him New Death the whole time. I don't really like how they stuffed the Lich into the story, but I get that he's the one that made New Death kill his dad in the flashback. Also, the reason Death doesn't speak in this episode is because of the voice actor, Miguel Ferrer, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, who sadly passed away in 2017. Nope. Can't think of anything else I disliked about Together Again. So now I'll start talking about the gazillions of things I loved about it. The colors and backgrounds were absolutely
stupendous,
which is definitely something that all 3 Distant Lands episodes have in common. I noticed that the background music was also really good and did a great job setting the mood and tone of a scene. Although the plot and some events of Together Again raised many questions about the mechanics of the underworld, like what happens if you die in the underworld? What if nobody wants to be reincarnated? How do they decide when to be reincarnated? What is being in the 50th Dead World like? Why would the Lich take the form of a hand if he could be any version of himself? He wouldn't be able to take the forms of any of these, because the hand belongs to Farm World Jake being possessed by the Lich, but he technically could take the form of this instead if he wanted to. Despite those questions and a few more, I thought the story was really solid and had a satisfying structure to it. While BMO and Obsidian didn't really have any emotional parts, Adventure Time managed to fit 3 punches to the gut that almost got me to cry. I don't know why I didn't. They were really, really emotional. The part where Finn hallucinating Jake's death at the beginning, the part where Jake finds Finn and they have the most wholesome hug in existence around the middle, and the part where they decide to get reborn together at the end. These 3 heart-wrenching scenes are perfect and have so much emotional meaning behind them. It's obvious that the more you've watched the show, the more impact these scenes would have on you, but they're emotional even when you haven't seen a lot of the primary show. The fact that Finn has apparently been waiting to die so we can see his brother again ever since Jake passed is absolutely brutal. And it gets worse the more that you think about it. And when you think about how Jake presumably raised Finn when their parents died, Finn lost a father figure and a big brother and his best friend sometime between the age of 17 and what I'm guessing is around his late 20s, early 30s. Which we can confirm because of Finn's tattoo of Jake on his chest in Obsidian. This makes the reunion so much more poetic and expressive, and Jake's decision to get reincarnated with Finn so much more beautiful. I definitely think that this episode would be better if it was released after Wizard City, which is the next and last Distant Lands episode. But I think they changed the order that the episodes were released in because Wizard City was taking longer than expected to make. Also, I was scrolling through the comments of the episode on the website that I watched it on, and one of the biggest arguments is whether Princess Bubblegum turned to stone and if this statue represents her death or not. I definitely don't think she's dead. She might have taken a break from being a princess for a while, or maybe she just decided to make a statue of herself for fun. But we know that she's incredibly old, and around 900 years to us is equal to 18 years to her. And there's no way that this place takes around 3 times 2, 5, 4,750 years later, because Finn would have died way before that. And we know that the Candy Kingdom ends up in ruins only 1,000 years in the future, which we know because of the episode Lemon Hope Part 2. I also saw a theory that these hands in the intro to the final episode of the primary show belong to Princess Bubblegum because of their pink color, and that this character is Marceline trying to rescue her. This is another great part of Adventure Time. They leave so much stuff unsolved, so that we can use our imagination to choose what happens next. Together Again is an amazing masterpiece of an episode. It's an emotional roller coaster with the most beautiful and precious moments that any form of media could create, while also doing a perfect job at concluding Finn and Jake's story.
Time is an illusion that helps things make sense. So we are always living in the present tense. It seems unforgiving when a good thing ends. But you and I will always be back then.
I want to spend the rest of the video to thank everyone that was a part of Adventure Time, including the fans. I doubt that there will ever be such a meaningful and perfect show to compare to this. In sad and depressing times like these, it's amazing to have a way to escape to another world with all these well-written characters and this beautiful world that you've created. And thank you for genuinely changing who I am as a person for the better. I've put a lot of thought into this channel, and I've decided that I'm comfortable with this video being the last one on my channel.
You and I will always be back then. You better hush up while my baby boy is sleeping.
Keep singing.
Okay. Will happen, happening, happened. Will happen, happening, happened. And will happen again and again. 'Cause you and I will always be back then. If there was some amazing force outside of time to take us back to where we were, and hang each moment up like pictures on the wall, inside a million tiny phrases so that we could see it all. It would look like will happen, happening, happened. Will happen, happening, happened. There we are again and again. 'Cause you and I will always be back then. You and I will always be back then. Will happen, happening, happened. Will happen, happening, happened.
I love you.
There we are again and again. 'Cause you and I will always be back then. 'Cause you and I will always be back then. You and I will always be back then. And so, you and I will always be best friends.
The world is a beautiful place, with beautiful people and beautiful places. The world's beauty is made up of little slivers of good. Everyone has different slivers, and mine is, in my opinion, the greatest creation in all of television history. Adventure Time. It's hard to imagine that I've been uploading videos onto YouTube for 3 years, but I always knew it wouldn't last forever. I told myself that if this channel didn't get anywhere, I would eventually give up. And I'm not saying that we didn't get anywhere. I mean, we reached over 100 subscribers, but I'm done. Let's go back in time and look at some great memories of this channel. I began with 3 random videos, then I started doing coloring, then lots of gaming, back to random stuff. DTB 1 and 2 are made, a lot more random stuff. Then I started streaming, mostly Fortnite, did some more random stuff, released DTB Part 3, my first song, more streaming, my first good song, DTB 4, started stepping up my game with funny gaming videos, released a book, a lot more funny gaming videos, another song dropped, Yippee Land began, this thing that got a shit ton of views, another quick song, more funny gaming videos, slowly getting better, more Yippee Land, FNAF VR, I still can't sleep at night, took a small break, dropped a new bop, a lot more funny gaming vids, getting really good, a few random stuff, met Noah's Noah, became Dunkachino, this thing that got a shit ton of views again, best of 2020, more funny stuff, released another book, a few VR games, dropped a new song, 100 subs, an April Fool's joke, but not really, a crappy review of the best show in history, and now we're here. We've come a pretty long way, and it's hard to believe that this is probably the last YouTube video I'll ever upload. Is there more stuff that I was planning on uploading? Yes. Am I gonna upload it? Nah. As a fun little thing to end my channel with, comment down below what your favorite video from my channel is, and I'll reply to your comment with a fun fact about that specific video. Also, you're allowed to comment multiple videos if you want to, I don't care. This video has taken an extremely long time to make, and I'm glad that I'm ending my channel with a video about something that means a lot to me. So I guess my final words on this channel, I don't know what they should be, but like, jeez, this is hard. I guess I'll just go with thank you, and bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's good.